We focus on preparing scholars and have three different academies. So the first is our Sales and Relationship Academy. We've partnered with Sequoia Systems, who they are very process driven and focus on preparing and going in for financial services organization and training sales teams. And so we've embedded them in our model. We also have a coach that works closely with the scholars there. And then we also have a FinTech Academy that we launched this year. FinTech, as everyone knows, is a growing interest and area in the industry. We're really excited about the progress we've made with the FinTech Academy. And that covers a variety of roles from product management, software engineering, coding, prop trading, risk and operations. And so we're really excited about the current structure of the program.
What changes have you made since becoming CEO?
We're really excited about the changes that we've made. The biggest change is really we lengthened our learning journey for the scholars. So when I first came in and stepped into the role, we would train scholars for 4 weeks over the summer, and then the scholars would go off on a 6-week internship. And while the training was great, it wasn't enough time for the scholars to really build command of information and for us to do as much as we would like to do with them. So the biggest change we've made in terms of the delivery, we've shifted from that kind of in-person training over the 4 weeks of summer to training college sophomores for a full 12 months during their sophomore year so that they can compete effectively for a role after their junior year. And so that's really allowed us to have more time with the scholars to make sure that they develop a personal and professional clarity, build an understanding about all the different opportunities in the industry, and then really do specific training that ties to those roles in the industry. The other thing that we've done really is we've built out a coaching line, and the coaching line consists of financial services professionals that have been in the seats that our scholars aspire to be in. It's full-time roles, so they're prioritizing the scholars, and each coach has a portfolio of scholars that they're really making sure and supporting and seeing to success. So the learning journey has been lengthened, but also the level of support has increased drastically. For example, what does that look like? We launched our Investment Academy this fall. It's for individuals that are interested in investment banking, private equity, venture capital, roles of that nature. And the scholars do a 2 to 3 hour class every week. They do anywhere from 7 to 15 hours of homework, and they're being supported by both the instructors and the coaches on a weekly basis. And just that level of interaction consistently over a full year leads to our scholars being able to be so much better prepared and to compete for these roles.
What are your numbers with the current program compared to the former program?
Our North Star and our vision is to create 100 million in economic mobility every year. And the way we get to that is by training 1,000 scholars and getting 1,000 scholars $100,000 jobs every single year. In the past, when I first came in, we were training roughly around 50 scholars every year, college scholars every year. What I would say is that we've actually quadrupled the amount of scholars we are training. So we have capacity to train roughly around 200 scholars on an annual basis. That's been the most exciting change. The shift to virtual, we've been very efficient. And while maintaining the operating budget in roughly around the same level, we've been able to get a lot of efficiencies and lower the cost per scholar. And so we are now proceeding on our first wave of growth to really support that. The way I would frame this is in the first 9 years of the organization's history, we trained roughly 300 scholars and graduated 300 scholars out of the program. In the next 3 years, we're aiming to graduate 450 scholars from the program. And when we exit that, we'll be in that 200 to 300 range for what we can train in an annual basis. So we're really excited to really now be proceeding through our first wave of growth now that we've restructured the delivery model of the program. And so that's a really exciting time for us right now.
What is the financial support for the program?
We have a lot of financial services firms. Whether they take interns or not, they're interested in supporting economic mobility. That has actually remained pretty stable and consistent, and we still see a lot of interest despite the political environment and the climate. And so that's been very interesting to just kind of work through this environment and get a feel for what's going on. And so we're really excited if individuals are interested in partnering with us. A lot of the organizations they highlight the employee engagement because their employees can engage with individuals who are uniquely positioned to really tap their knowledge base because they want to do the exact same jobs these individuals are doing. It's a little bit different than volunteering with some other organizations. So firms are citing that, and then just the impact that they can make in terms of economic mobility. In regards to the Stream acquisition and Stream merger, that's been really encouraging. Stream Foundation is a foundation that had its organization that has its roots in Dallas. They were founded post George Floyd with a focus on introducing more Black and Latinos into front office asset management roles. We were in discussions with them for about a year. We are just now finalizing and closing the merger. And so we're really excited. That's going to allow us to accelerate our presence in the South and Southeast of the US. Their partners are really excited to engage with Greenwood Project. And given the change in our model, previously we used to fly everybody into Chicago to do training over those 4 weeks of the summer. But with a much more virtual delivery model, we continue to expand our national presence, and now we're able to support more scholars nationwide. So we anticipate Stream is going to be integral in terms of us continuing a more national expansion. Their two co-founders are joining our governing board, and they're excited to come in and make an impact.
What are some of the outcomes of the program?
The core thesis behind Greenwood Project is that the bridge from college to career has really collapsed for Blacks and Latinos. So when you think about Blacks and Latinos, only 46% of Black and Latinos that go to college actually graduate college. And out of those that graduate, 60% are unemployed or underemployed, meaning they're in a job that doesn't require a 4-year degree 1 year after graduation. And I wanted to just take a step back and provide that background because really Greenwood Project is rebuilding that bridge from college to career. What that means is that 70% of our scholars, once they graduate and end up in the workforce, are transitioning into full-time roles in financial services. And 90% of our scholars are transitioning into what we call high trajectory careers. So those are careers that require a 4-year degree. You have a significant upside, like you can actually build a career in that role and there's a progression there. And you're making at least $60,000 coming out of school. And so for us, we've been able to maintain those metrics. We look at a lot of leading and coincident indicators. What I would share is even through this transition in the last summer, generally, 70% of our scholars receive full-time return offers. And this past summer, 88% of our scholars received full-time return offers. So we think that the improvement and the increased support for the scholars and the increased training is coming to fruition when we look at those numbers. And really, one of the core beliefs here is we don't want to just grow for growth's sake. We want to make sure that we're maintaining this kind of impact and people are seeing these results. The reality is that when someone participates in our program, they see generally a 1 to 3 million uptick in lifetime earnings, which really can position them to impact their family and communities for generations to come.
Do all scholars take jobs with industry partners?
In the past, the scholars used to take roles with industry partners, and that was because the training happened over the summer and the partners needed to line up roles in which they could do a truncated internship. Given the change in the program, given some of the work that we do internally now, our scholars have a lot better understanding and much earlier in the process, what are the right roles for them? Where does these roles actually intersect with their skill set? And a much just better understanding. And so scholars have the agency to choose the roles that are right for them. So what we've seen now is that in the last cycle, more than 50% of scholars actually were able to secure internships, which roles that were not at our corporate partners. And now the way our corporate partners engage with us is they don't really reserve roles for scholars. Our scholars are just able to apply in and go through the traditional recruiting cycle. And I think it's better overall because the scholars are able to identify the roles that really align with their interests as well as the cultures they think they'll do the best in. And our corporate partners, their managers are able to identify the best candidates, regardless of whether they're a Greenwood Project scholar or not. And so then that gives them increased buy-in in terms of making sure that person is supported and successful. I think that also is probably why we're seeing such a higher in terms of like transition and conversion rate with the full-time offers, because people have more agency all across the board in the process.
Have non-partner employers been recruited through scholars?
Our biggest recruiting and referral source is really word of mouth with scholars. And so our application volumes have kind of shot up through the roof. When I first came in, we were probably accepting 70 to 80% of scholars that applied. 2 years ago, we accepted 10%. Last year, we accepted 15%. I don't say that proudly. I wish we had more resources to accept more. And we've actually increased the GPA requirements as well as some of the requirements. So it's become a lot more competitive to get into the program. And then when scholars go to firms and they actually perform well, what we'll oftentimes see is that firms continue to expand the relationship. A manager kind of talks about how strongly a Greenwood Project scholar did relative to maybe other scholars or other individuals in internships. So this year, we've had multiple firms come in and continue to kind of expand the relationship. And really, it's the word of mouth that supports it, but not just from the scholars speaking up, but really the managers seeing how good the scholars have performed and then talking to other managers and kind of continuing to grow the relationship.
What is the message you are bringing to the FIA Expo?
FIA being a partner has meant the world to us. They have always come to us and responded and saying, how can we support you? What are your needs? And really they've approached this from a true partnership lens. And so it's always been refreshing to engage with FIA. At the conference, we're really excited. We're going to do a presentation and talk about the mission and vision for Greenwood Project. We're also going to have a panel discussion with one of our scholars who is going to transition into a full-time role at a fintech firm. And so we're really excited to kind of highlight, and so individuals can hear firsthand from the scholars the impact it has made in their life. I think what I would love for individuals to walk away with is that now is an exciting time to partner and invest in Greenwood Project. We can't do this work without support. And that investment can come in the form of human capital, engaging and volunteering with our scholars. It could come in the support of financial sponsorship as well. And we would be willing to talk to firms and individuals to see what gives them energy and how they can best partner and support Greenwood Project.